Well, hello, good evening, and welcome to a brand new episode of Start Being Visible with me, Mildred Talabi. Now, my guest for today's show is someone that I've actually watched on LinkedIn for a while, and I thought this lady, she is on fire, and I need to talk to her to find out what is up because she's got so many amazing things going for her. And if you read her posts on LinkedIn, you can't help but feel kind of like a girl power, we're gonna take over the world type of vibe, on her post. Right. Her name is Samantha Harman, and she is a former journalist and award-winning editor who transitioned into style coaching as a way to combine her love of style and passion for equality in order to support women in a professional arena. Now, today, Sam specializes in helping women in business to save time and make money using the power of their wardrobe. Now, what has all this got to do with visibility and personal branding, and how on earth do you make money through the power of your wardrobe? Well, I'm going to get some answers from Sam today. So please help me welcome to the stage, Samantha Harman. Hey, Sam.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. As you know, long-time fan of yours.
Oh, that is wonderful. And we're gonna get into all of that in today's conversation because of course we connected via LinkedIn, and this is where we're streaming live, and LinkedIn is an awesome platform for making great connections. So I see you, Julene. Hello, Ada, Iris, Kate, Bemi Sola. Hello. Thank you for tuning in today. So Sam, where I want to start with this is your tagline on LinkedIn says, I've got nothing to wear, has nothing to do with clothes. Talk to us about that. What do you mean?
Yeah. I get so many comments about that tagline. I think it makes people think because we see clothes as just, very just arbitrary, right? Something we do every day is get dressed. But actually, our wardrobes are not just clothes. They are the physical manifestation of how we feel about ourselves, what's going on in our lives, our beliefs, what we've been told we can do and can't do, our hopes for the future, all this stuff wrapped up in what is essentially a wooden box in our bedrooms. And there is a lot of information in your wardrobe. So when I go into someone's wardrobe, I'm kind of reading them, not just looking at, this blouse goes with that skirt or whatever. So
Okay. I'm gonna put myself on the spot, So because I'm assuming as a stylist, as someone who knows about wardrobes, you can't help but read people every time you meet them through their clothes. So what is your reading of me saying today? Have I picked a good outfit?
Yeah, you know what? You look glam. But I always think every time I see you, I'm just like, I'm a big fangirl. There are people on LinkedIn that I'm always like, I'm such a fangirl. And then when you're in my DMs, I was like, oh my God, it's Mildred. Yeah, you're just really like open and friendly. And it's what obviously makes you so great on LinkedIn and makes so many people want to be connected to you.
Oh, thank you. I was hoping you wouldn't tear down my choice of colors and all that. Is that what a stylist does, by the way? And is there a difference between a stylist and I know you call yourself a style coach?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a difference between the two?
Yeah. A good stylist, I would say a good stylist, no, they wouldn't do that. I always loved clothes, but from a very young age, I was kind of told that I did not fit into style, right? As most of us have been told that. And I really struggled with body image. There were times where I literally couldn't find anything to wear in the shops. I was going to my cousin's wedding and I was in the changing room literally crying because I couldn't fit into anything. And these shop assistants were laughing at me. And I hate the fact that fashion makes women feel like that because ironically, we're the ones that are being sold to, we're the customer, and we should not be made to feel that way. And I have had unfortunate experiences before when I've thought that way about stylists where they've been like cute outfit type of thing. And I absolutely hate that. And when I did my styling training, I realized that so much of the training is very practical. It's about this is you're an apple, you're a pear or whatever, and you should wear this, and this. And whilst that's all great, it's really good to have that information. It doesn't actually change anything because if you don't address the mindset stuff, you're not going to help your client. And I've met people who work with stylists who have spent thousands of pounds on new clothes. It's a year later, they're still not wearing the clothes. And it's because we're not addressing the mindset and the beliefs behind why we feel the way that we feel.
And I do want to talk about those mindset and beliefs as we go on in the show. Just real quickly, Kate says there's lost sound. If anyone else has lost sound to us, just let me know. If you can still hear us, just drop in the comments, thumbs up, I can still hear you, so I know that we're still reaching, or whether it's just an issue at your end, Kate. But okay, so we will talk about the relationship between clothes and how you feel and the mindset. But let's go back to kind of like the beginning, because you did touch on your childhood and from young, you know, the way your relationship with clothes. But what was little Sam like? What were you? Were you this confident, outgoing person that you come across as today, or was there something more?
No, I not at all. I actually grew up on a council estate, and I wanted to be I love writing, wanted to be a journalist, but I didn't know or see anyone who was that. But thankfully, I had parents who told me there's literally nothing that you can't do, and we were very poor.
Sorry, which council estate? Where did you go?
I grew up in Paulsgrove in Portsmouth, which some of my family still live there, and now I live in Oxfordshire because I moved all around for work. So that's where I grew up, and my parents always told me there's nothing that anyone else can do that you can do whatever you put your mind to. So I guess I always had that instilled in me from a very young age. But clothes are a really interesting one because we were poor, right? Like we had no money, to the point where sometimes there were actually holes in my clothes because we just couldn't have new stuff. And that's really interesting because our identity is so wrapped up in our clothes, and there are so many beliefs around, you know, money and stuff that we've grown up with that then influence how we dress as an adult. So I have clients now who grew up in a similar environment who are making a lot of money now but find it very hard to buy things for themselves. Or they might go the other way, like they might never have been able to have labels and stuff, and they associate that with having made it, so that's all they want. It's absolutely fascinating to me how much of our belief system is actually wrapped up in what we wear as adults, as it is in so many things. But yeah, I was very full of self-doubt, to be honest, because I was told from such a young age, the word that was used to me was fat, right? I was constantly told I need to lose weight. And so very much I thought that if I got to work in magazines, then I'd have like made it, because, you know, that's the pinnacle of beauty and fashion and everything. And I worked really hard to get into magazines, and I got to the hallowed halls of this particular very esteemed publisher, and I looked around me and realized like everyone here feels the same way. Everyone here has thought that this would make them feel good about themselves, and it hasn't. Yeah. Life stories. God.
I love it. How old were you when you got there? Because I know you climbed up the ladder in the editorial side quite young, and at 27 you became an editor. But so at this point where you had this realization that this pathway of working in magazines wasn't going to bring you the happiness that you thought it would, how old were you then?
Younger than that. It was when I was starting out. But interestingly, I really thought I wanted to work in fashion magazines, and then I ended up working in newspapers because naively, you know, I have my thoughts on the media industry, as I'm sure we all do at the moment. I wanted to actually make a difference, and where I'd grown up has shown me that there wasn't very much justice in the world. And really, I thought that I wanted to do a job that would help make a difference. And in some ways it does. Like the best stories that I ever worked on were things where, for example, someone was going to be deported, and we did this whole campaign, and she ended up being able to stay here. And unfortunately, a few years later, she actually passed away, and she was literally the same age as me. And that really affected me in that story. But it was stuff like that I really wanted to do. But ironically, I decided that I didn't want to work in fashion magazines because of all that. I really wanted to make a difference. And when I went to get my first job at a newspaper, the editor at the time said to me, I think you're too into fashion to be a serious journalist. So it just shows you how women particularly are constantly judged. I didn't feel like I was good enough or, you know, pretty enough or conventional looking enough to work in magazines, but also I was being told that I was too fashion to work as to be a serious journalist. So I always like to prove people wrong. So that's exactly what I had to, from that moment, I was like, I'm going to have to prove this man wrong. And then a few years later, he ended up promoting me.
So it worked.
Yeah.
I get the journalism thing, because that the industry, and I don't think it's changed much. As you know, I trained as a journalist as well, and I worked in the media for a bit. I remember I worked on the entertainment desk for a very short period of time, because I had people. It was a 3 a.m. desk in the Daily Mirror, and we had people calling in like, I saw this celebrity stumbling out of the pub, you know, and that was the story that they were writing. I'm like, I don't care. Like, this is not what I want to do with my life. And so, like, did you feel like when you made the decision, I know you intentionally shifted from fashion to more serious journalism, was there a part of you that thought that you would never be taken seriously if you stayed in fashion throughout your career?
I think honestly, there was a part of me that thought I wouldn't be taken seriously in media at all, because media is now, it's probably actually even worse. It's really elitist. Most newspaper editors are, or most journalists actually, a friend of mine runs a charity called Presspad, and they work a lot in helping people from
Olivia.
Olivia. So they work with helping people from diverse backgrounds get into media, because media is so elitist. And they did a survey. I mean, Olivia will have the actual stats, but it showed that the majority of well-paid journalists are from very privileged backgrounds. And I very much felt that from, you know, just doing my training at university. I'm sure a lot of people who are, you know, working class, or the first person in their family to have gone to university, probably feel the same sort of way. But yeah, definitely all the way through. And that is why really it's led me to do what I do now, to help women feel, you know, that they are taken seriously and they can do what they want in whatever their career is. Because I remember there was a big uproar when I got an editorship. I was the first female editor of this particular newspaper in 160 years. So the first one ever since it had been made. And I had all sorts of comments, you know, out and out misogyny and sexism. One man cut up an edition of the newspaper and sent it to me in a box. I don't know what that's all about. So, you know, very much this kind of stuff still exists in media, and absolutely I've thought all the way through that I have to kind of fight to be taken seriously. And I am, you know, a white, able-bodied, cis woman. So, you know, the media, it needs to change. It is not diverse, or it doesn't represent the people that it's supposed to represent.
And it's so tragic that after I left the media a long time ago, well over 15 years or so, and it's so tragic how little has changed, you know, in all that time. So I think there's probably like this whole age of social media where everyone can kind of be journalists in a sense, has sort of leveled things a little bit in terms of the news front, but still not the traditional institutionalized media front. So, but anyway, that's a conversation for another time,
Media,
right?
Yeah, we're coming for you, media.
Yeah, we'll come for them. We'll come along with Olivia. Olivia is a former client, actually. She's awesome. So yeah, that's brilliant. But what did your fight look like? So you had to fight your way to be taken seriously. You had to fight to get to this top position of being the first female editor. What did that look like on a practical level? How were you fighting?
Through what I wear, I think, is a pretty big one. And, you know, that obviously everyone has to work hard. But I do think, looking back, I did really take my personal brand seriously. I could see that was the way that journalism was going. And even now, journalists particularly at nationals, but even at regional level, they are marked on page views and stuff. So they are marked on having a personal brand. And I could see that's the way it was going. And I thought, it's not just enough for me to be good at editing, although I'm sure that former colleague, I'll say it myself, like there are parts of editing I absolutely hated. Sub-editing, no thank you, not for me, not good at all. But the parts of being someone who had a personal brand and presence was where I, looking back, actually did really nail, because I was dressing for the job I wanted and not for the job I had. And I was positioning myself as someone who could go to, you know, meetings on behalf of the company or speak on panels and that kind of thing. And I think, I don't know if it's women specific, but the whole good girl thing that we have, where we're like, if I just work really, really hard, then I'll be noticed, and then I'll get the promotion. And unfortunately, that's not business. That's just not how business works. So we have to be a bit strategic with our personal brands. And we feel that we are quite safe working in a company. We only brush off our LinkedIn profile when, you know, we go into work one day and they say to us, we've had a really bad quarter, we're going to have to let you go. We think that they have loyalty to us in the same way that we have loyalty to them, and it's not true. And we often put a company before our own careers. Not enough people are strategic with what they're doing in terms of their personal brand and their presence. I don't think.
I'm with you totally on that. The whole personal branding is so key. But you clocked onto that quite early, as you said, and you talked about how you dressed for the part you wanted. Who taught you this? How did you come to this realization that you had to kind of present yourself differently or act differently in order to get to where you wanted in your career?
I think it was, first of all, assumptions that were made. And I think it was important for me to dress in a way that made people take me seriously. Because when you are a young woman and you walk into a room full of men, they assume that you are the secretary. I mean, I don't know how many times I'd be stood next to my deputy, who was a man. This happened, there were two actually. One was younger than me and one was quite a lot older than me. And often people would assume that I was working for him. So I wanted to use my wardrobe to show, actually, take me seriously. But I think I've always just had an innate love of dressing up. And unfortunately, it's something that a lot of us get out of as we get older. And actually, creativity is a really big part of the human experience. Sometimes when I say to my clients, you've got loads of clothes here, let's just spend some time playing dress up, they're like, that's nonsense. That just sounds silly, right? That just sounds like something a kid would do. But actually, in the long term, it helps your career because you find new things, you increase your confidence in being able to do it. And then you walk into the office on Monday and someone's like, I love that outfit, Susan. You look amazing. Like, Susan's here to slay today. And then they take you more seriously.
Go, Susan.
Susan, if you're watching this, whoever you are.
I love it. So Ada has a good question that kind of follows up on that. She said, so when it comes to dressing for the job that you want versus the one you have, how should one handle a situation where dressing for the job you want seems to intimidate your managers or leaders?
They're not very good managers, are they? Got to get yourself out of there. If a manager does not ultimately want you to thrive, that is not good management. And it's much better to think strategically about you and look after yourself. And, you know, if they are intimidated, that's clearly a them problem. But there are subtle ways of doing it. After the pandemic, no one really has a clue how to dress anymore, right? And some people are really formal, some people are really casual. And I know that it's really confusing for managers who have not had the training themselves in this. They don't know how to talk to people about it because no one in the company is thinking that this is a big deal, when actually getting dressed every day is something that is required for us to do our jobs. But what you can do is be subtle. So just think about, you know, the quality of the pieces that you have, or tailoring, or borrow from the level above. So if at the moment you dress very smart casual, add in things that would be slightly more business casual. So invest in a really nice blazer or something that just helps people perceive you in a slightly different way. But you know what I would do? If a manager was intimidated by me looking for my next job or actually showing up really well for the job, that's not the company that I'd want to be in. That's management.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting you talk about expressing yourself through clothes, because for a lot of women, certainly I'm gonna say the old days, which is gonna make me sound like I'm 89 or something, right? You know, but let's just say in earlier years, certainly at the beginning of my career, power dressing for a woman is kind of like the suits, you know, the dark colors, the kind of looking like a man in a sense, but just a little bit more feminine. So there seems to have been a shift that has happened in the workplace. But for the woman who's still kind of thinking that if I want to be taken seriously, I need to go buy some suits and just walk around with this power look going on. What do you say to that? How do we get over that?
I will tell you a story about someone that I worked with who was in a very serious position in the financial industries. And she said to me, I'm really annoyed. And I was like, why are you annoyed? And she said, because I spent all of this money on these boring black suits and I still got mansplained to, and I still got, looked over for a promotion. I still got paid less than my male colleagues. And if I had had the courage to wear the green suit that I actually really wanted to wear, yes, the mansplaining might have still happened, but I may have felt more confident in myself to be able to say, no, Barry, not today, and to be able to advocate for myself to get the pay rise. I mean, we know that I think 60% of women will never ask for a pay rise or never negotiate their salary. And I've had so many conversations with women in my life about this, where they're offered a new job and then they just like go with the offer that they have. But yeah, that's a story for you to keep in mind when you're worried about, what Barry might say if you wear the green suit, because unfortunately that situation is still going to happen. But how we kind of change the thing is to call out those situations, and when we feel more confident in ourselves, it gives us the ability to do that.
So what's the connection between what we're wearing and how much we're getting paid?
It's all psychological. There are studies that show that there's something called enclothed cognition. So that means that when you put on a piece of clothing, you embody the qualities of what you associate with that clothing. So let's say that you really, you associate wearing a blazer with someone who is powerful and in control. Studies show that those will be the qualities that you embrace when you wear those clothes, and it helps mostly in your own self-perception. That's where a lot of the work is with my clients, in their identity of themselves, but it also helps in other people's perception of you. And when we're in a very busy digital world, how you show up and how you're remembered is important. And I have clients who slightly change the way they dress. They're being a bit more bolder and a bit more how they actually really want to dress. And they find that they get more clients, or they find that they have the confidence to raise their prices. So there is a big link between what we wear and how we perform, and also what we wear and how we're perceived. And if you're doing something like, for example, you want to get higher ticket clients, then don't neglect how your wardrobe plays a part in that, because people will be perceiving you in a certain way based on what you're wearing.
And you've, in some of your posts, you've been pretty brutal on sites like Shane. I never know how to pronounce that right, like the places that sell cheap clothes. I think maybe even Primark I've read on one of them, because so you can tell us why in just a second. But so, do we have to go and shop at expensive places in order to feel that we are worth that extra cash in our business or in our career?
No, we don't. And how we feel is the most important thing in our clothes. The problem isn't necessarily having access to cheaper clothing, right? There is a need for us to have affordable clothing. However, that shouldn't come at the cost of someone else. And the problem is not now necessarily where we're buying it, it's how we feel about clothes. We feel that they are a commodity. We'll buy stuff that's, you know, £5 t-shirt, and we just think, oh well, if I wear it once, doesn't matter, it was less than a cup of coffee, what does it matter? What we don't understand is that t-shirt has an impact on not only the person who's made it, but also on the planet. You know, there are mountains of clothes shipped off to Chile, parts of Africa, mountains of clothes that cannot be resold because they're so cheap and poorly made. And we currently have enough clothing on the planet for the next 6 generations of people. And it's scary. I don't have children, but the thought of having children and the climate crisis really scares me. It really scares me of what kind of planet we're leaving for the next generations. So that's why it's important. But it doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, you have to go out and buy Chanel and then you'll feel better. We're doing the work on your self-belief first, and then we're thinking about your wardrobe in terms of what is best cost per wear, what makes you feel really good, and then going from there. So I would never go into someone's wardrobe and be like, chuck this all out, this is all terrible. No. Nope. I'm going to ask them questions about how that stuff came to be in their wardrobe in the first place, to get them thinking about the decisions they're making. Because a lot of the stuff we buy because it's emotional plaster. We're like, I've had a bad day, so I'm going to go on. ASOS have been bombarding me with emails, 20% off, 50% off that. So I'm going to go on there and buy loads of stuff. And then the dopamine hit we get from that subsides even before the stuff gets to the front door. Then we put it on, it doesn't fit properly because we haven't got the foundational knowledge as to what actually suits us or what is good on us. And then it goes in the wardrobe, hidden away, never to be seen again. Or it goes in a bag for the charity shop, and then we think that we're doing a good thing. So we're like, well, I've given it to a charity shop. So if I buy something and I donate it, wash my hands of that. Actually, a very small percentage of what we give to charity even gets to the charity shop. Loads of it gets shipped off onto those clothes mountains.
Wow, interesting.
Round about fast fashion. Just calm myself down. This is what I do on LinkedIn, isn't it? I'm like, another thing.
Yes, you're educating us. You are definitely educating us on that front. You know, so, and I want more of that education in a second, but let's go back to your transition. So you're here, you're in journalism, you're working in media, and you're climbing pretty high. So at some point you have this realization that actually this is not the pathway that I want for myself. I want to become a coach that styles women. Talk to us about that transition. What was going on mentally, and how did you then put it into motion on a practical level?
Like a lot of people who start their own businesses, they want more freedom and ease in their lives, right? And I massively enjoyed my career in the media, and I've spoken to former colleagues in the media about this too. I think you get a limited time because it is such a full-on job. Like literally, you don't know what's going to happen today when you work in the media. You could be sent everywhere. You get a call and it's 3 a.m. and you're in your pajamas and you just have to go. And on the one hand, that is absolutely exhilarating, but also it's a path to burnout. So I ended up in the pandemic extremely burned out because COVID cycle was constant news and I got very unwell. But in the back of my mind before that happened, I knew that I really wanted to do this business, and it felt like a massive pipe dream because who even is a stylist? That's just a silly hobby. That's not a real job. But I knew that when I was going to events or meeting women online, they were asking for my help with what to wear to work, because I think they saw me. I had to have a personal brand because of the job I was doing. They would see me wearing things and they would say, I've got an interview next week. Can you help me pick out an outfit? Or I need to go to this meeting and feel confident. What would you advise me to do? So then I was like, I'm going to get my formal training in this so that I can help women with this, because I can see it was a problem, and it's a problem that no one's talking about. I mean, I don't know about you. When I speak to women about this, their experience is the same as mine. No one helps us with what we're supposed to wear to work. Like the thing we have to do every day, and no one's having this conversation. So we go to work and we actually don't feel very good about ourselves. And then we go to a meeting and we get, you know, talked over or talked down to, and we don't feel like we can advocate for ourselves, or we edit our emails constantly. I don't want to come across as a B word, so I'll, you know, oh, please, would you mind just doing this? And oh, sorry about that. It's actually affecting us in a much bigger way than just putting on a dress in the morning. It's important, and no one was talking about it. And so I just decided, well, I'm going to talk about it then. Fine. If no one's going to do this, I'll have to do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it began.
I think part of that silence is there's a part of us, probably for a lot of us, where it's like talking about how you look. It's like, oh gosh, that's vain. You know, I mean, that's, you know, it's not, that's in the grand scale of things, that's not that important, because, you know, it's vanity, and there's more important things to talk about or think about. So we kind of pretend that we don't care that much about how we look.
Yeah.
So is that what you find is one of the issues?
Ironically, right, there are companies making a lot of money out of that, because we spend so much money on beauty products, on fixing problems that don't even exist. Like cellulite, for example, was a medical term for, you know, inflammation of the skin. And in the 1960s, Vogue started using it to describe the perfectly normal dimples that women and men and other people get on their skin, so that their advertisers can sell us products to fix it. So the less we talk about this stuff, the more stigma there is around talking about it, and the more we tell people it's vain to care about this, the more those kind of companies win. Because on the one hand, we're saying, you know, everyone is beautiful, blah, 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 but also you need to buy all this stuff to fix problems that you don't really have. And we're still all thinking about it. That's the thing. I think women have a survey by Dove showed that women have over 60 negative thoughts a day about themselves, and that was before social media. So I don't know what the figure would be now. But those same women are then still spending hundreds, thousands of pounds on stuff they don't need. That's really sad to me. I met a woman who's in her 80s, and she said to me, "I'm in my 80s, and I still think about losing weight every day."
Wow.
What are we doing? Yeah. What are we doing?
Wow. And I feel that fiery passion that you have, right? And that comes across on your post. And we're gonna talk about your post, you know. So but so there you are, you decide that no one's talking about this. You're like, I'm the one I'm gonna just talk about this. Were you kind of nervous about, one, to talk about it so openly and not be taken seriously, one, and two, it's like, did you think, well, how am I going to make money out of this? Because if it's something that people don't want to talk about openly, then how are they going to want to pay me, you know? So what was that thought process like for you?
Yes and yes. 100% yes. I think, to be honest, I was kind of used to not being taken serious, or having to fight people because, number one, I'm from Portsmouth, we love a fight, but also just in my career, the whole thing from being a kid and not, you know, having to work to get to where I was used to being taken seriously or not being taken seriously, and then having to fight to be taken seriously. And I could see this is a big passion of mine, because I can see it's such a problem. And one of the things that happened just before I left newspapers was that I needed a deputy editor, and I knew 5 women who would have been amazing at that job, and none of them applied for it. And when I called them and said, what's going on? Like, I was expecting to see your CV here because I've got a great job that I want you to have. They were saying stuff like, I'm not qualified enough, I need a few more years, I don't think I'd be good enough at that. And then I was getting CVs from men who were not as qualified as them, no problem applying for the same job. So I think that's why my passion isn't clothes, it is helping women feel confident, make money, make good stuff happen in the world. Because, you know, I first of all, I want people to feel free and be able to support their families first. And then secondly, once they have that taken care of, then they can start thinking about the things they want in the world for their families, for the future. And then they can give to good causes, or they can vote in people who actually care about the country or the world and that kind of stuff. So I think that's what drives me. It's not, here's an outfit, let's put an outfit together, and that's fun. It's that, the value piece. And that is what I then started talking about to make people understand the connection of, oh, this isn't just some silly woman talking about clothes. This is a woman trying to help other women make money.
And you talk openly about making money. That's very un-British of you, Sam.
What you doing? What? Yeah. We need to talk about it, because when the average woman is retiring with £130,000 less than men, and we have the motherhood penalty and all this other, we have to talk about money. Not talking about money just benefits the patriarchy, right? And it's our conditioning. We're told that it's not right or ladylike to talk about money, but that just means that we can be paid less. It's not people think money means something about us, but actually it just means something about money. And if I can encourage more women to charge what they should be charging for their services, then great. That's what I do.
Okay. So I wanna ask you about money again. I like talking about money. I'm clearly not British in that sense either, and for the same reasons as you. But Iris has a question that I want to put to you. So Iris says that she works in an environment where she's the only person of color and one of 4 females. My style has cultural influences which stand out. What is your advice for style choices or influences in the corporate space?
I, first of all, would look at, I think you actually have an opportunity to help shape things and make things easier for other people like you in the workplace, right? Because someone else might be coming into that workplace and they might be really confused about what they're allowed to wear and not. So maybe there's a conversation that can happen with HR, with the company, about communicating what to wear at work and how you have buy-in as someone who works there, because you have to feel comfortable and confident in what you're wearing, and at the same time they have their expectations as to what people wear. But because no one's having this conversation, you don't know what is okay to wear, and that when that they're probably, as I've heard so many managers do, complaining about what people are wearing to work but not actually having a conversation about it. But it depends on your individual situation as to what you feel good and comfortable wearing to work. I think a lot of people worry that if they work with me, I'll say, okay, ta-da, transformation, off you go to work tomorrow in feeling like an absolute clown, wearing something that doesn't feel good to you. Actually, it's just small changes that will help build your confidence. And like I said, I think that you probably there's an opportunity there to actually to help shape things for people in the future. I would hope.
Correct me if I'm wrong in understanding this, but from what you're saying in general in this conversation, so is it a case of not that there's a corporate wear that you need to adhere to, but start your choice of outfit with what feels comfortable to you first, and then consider the environment? Is it kind of that way round as opposed to the other way, which most people tackle it?
Yeah, I think you have to feel the better you feel, the better you're going to perform at your job. And obviously we have to use some discernment as to what is the general level of dress in that company. The trouble with the levels of dresses, and a lot of companies do not understand this, is that they were written by a man called John T. Malloy in the 70s. So, over 50 years ago, this man wrote a book about what women should wear to work. And it was something along the lines of what you said about masculine, right? Like the big shoulder pads, that's where that came from. But also you should have small waist, because you're just playing at this being a woman at work thing. We all know that your real job is to be a wife and mum. So the sooner you can get out of the workplace and get back to that, then great. That hasn't changed. Those levels of dress that companies still use is still based on those rules from over 50 years ago. Think how much has changed in the last over 50 years in terms of society, in terms of world events, in terms of the way that we even work now. A lot of people are hybrid working, technology. All of this stuff really needs addressing. And I would say it's important for you to feel comfortable in your job so that you can perform at your best. So use your discernment in terms of what that means for you. If it's become kind of popular to say that you don't care and that you just kind of, I'll just roll out of bed, I just wear a hoodie. But I would like to know over a period of time how that actually makes you feel, because I don't think that it makes people feel their best when they do.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess there's different rules for working in the office and working from home, but still in the office, in terms of what you wear and how comfortable you get in that space. Is that right?
Yeah, you can be comfortable and also feel good. Like, it's just, for example, let's say that you were going to put on a scraggly little pair of pajamas. How about instead you invest in some nice loungewear that makes you feel good rather than that? It's different. It's not that you're any less comfortable. It's that there is a level of how something really makes you feel. What you wear when you're on your own is actually the most important thing, because that's who you're telling yourself that you are. And what happens a lot is people say they don't care about what they wear when they're on their own. Could put on any old thing from the wardrobe. They'd be embarrassed of their postman to see. And then they're asked to do something for work, like go to a presentation or go to a conference. And then they feel like they have to wear something very, corporate-y or a suit. And they feel like an imposter. And it's because every day behind closed doors, they've been telling themselves, you're stig of the dump. And then they have to put on this show of dressing well in public, and it can really affect, especially if you run your own business, it can really affect the kind of activities you do in your day-to-day. So if you're someone who has to do, for example, LinkedIn Live, you want to do more LinkedIn Lives, but every day you just can't be bothered to get dressed, you're going to tell yourself that you can't show up on LinkedIn Live, so you don't do it. A week goes by, you haven't done it. Another week goes by, you haven't done it. Whereas you could have done it once. People could have seen you, they've seen the whites of your eyes, really like what you're saying, get in your DMs and work with you. So that's the difference it can make.
I tell, when I started doing LinkedIn Lives, it was just at the beginning of COVID, actually. And I remember I used to do them, and I was just like, I'd clean up a bit, but never like full face makeup, choose clothes, all of that kind of stuff. So I'm like, I'm just being real, I'm being me, and this is me, right? My sister one time, I didn't even know she has a LinkedIn account. She tuned in and she's like, Mildred, I love what you're saying, but you need to kind of like get all glammed up and stuff. You've got a personal brand. Like, I'm like, I think this is what I teach people, but it did kind of make me level up a little bit, and then since then I'm much better at doing those things. So you're right, because how you kind of showcase yourself and you present yourself, it does affect the way you feel. It does affect, like, yeah, I'm ready because I got ready. I got ready, so I'm ready. So I get that it does matter. But I want to talk about LinkedIn, and I want to talk about being visible on LinkedIn, because this show is called Start Being Visible. So you are very visible on LinkedIn, so much so that you recently got recognized as a LinkedIn top voice. Let's take a moment to celebrate that achievement. Well done. So tell us about that journey, because when you started your coaching business, did you then think, right, I got to get on LinkedIn and find my clients and start posting on there, and then the rest is history? Or what was that journey like for you?
Yeah, I could see, honestly, that LinkedIn was a place where people are in a business mindset. And I could also see that on Instagram, for example, it's very saturated with styling content. There's a lot of, how to put this look together, 5 looks for £50, all that kind of stuff. And it's different to what I'm saying. But I felt that LinkedIn would be a good platform, because I love to write as well, to talk about this in a business context. And I'm not just saying it, honestly. The first place that I went was your book. I was like, right, I'm going to get serious on LinkedIn. So I got your book and I read your book and I implemented what was in that book. And since then, it's just been a consistent journey of showing up, being visible, and creating content around why this stuff matters. And at first I still sometimes get comments. I did get comments like, this isn't Facebook. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm not saying anything. I'm saying stuff I'm saying that this can help you, your business. So now people are getting it. But yes, that's why I decided to use LinkedIn. And I kind of feel like more stylists should use LinkedIn, because this is stuff that affects us every day of our working lives.
LinkedIn is a copywriter's playground. You know, if you're good at copywriting, you will really boss it on LinkedIn. So I know that you're a trained writer, but are you also a trained copywriter? Is that something you learn? And by the way, for those who don't know the difference, because people often say to me, Mildred, of course you're good at LinkedIn, you're a writer. I am a writer. I've been a writer since I was little, but I'm not a copywriter. It's a different skill altogether. And one that I had to learn, and I'm still learning, is really different. So what copywriting is, kind of writing that makes you do stuff. It's very punchy, very direct, Sam is very good at it. She's very good at it. So is this something that you learned, or is it just part of the natural writing skill set that you had from the beginning?
Just so natural. What? Just natural, amazing. No, it just comes naturally to me. But I feel that that is kind of an advantage that I have. And sometimes people say to me, "Oh, you know, I wish that I could write like that on LinkedIn," but they don't necessarily understand that writing journalism is completely different to copywriting. But I do have that background in writing, and I also I'm an Aries, so I just can't help being passionate about over dramatic. Some would say, my husband would say, about everything. It's just who I am in life. But it is a different skill set. It is something that you can learn, or there are fantastic copywriters on LinkedIn who will help you.
Yeah, absolutely. There are definitely lots to follow. So visibility, the word itself, what does that mean to you? How do you describe visibility?
It is, I think, knowing what you stand for, putting your stake in the ground and saying, this is me, and this is what I'm saying. If you don't like it, I'm not for you, move on. But I'm going to keep on doing this consistently for the people that do. A lot of women say to me that they are worried or scared about being visible on LinkedIn. They're worried about the things that it might attract, or even if they work with people, they think, oh, what will Barry think of me posting on LinkedIn? But I always say to them, does Barry pay your bills? No. Is Barry ultimately in charge of your career trajectory? No, probably not. Is Barry going to shift things in the way that I know that you want to shift things because you're really passionate about something? And the answer is no. It's not necessarily being all in people's faces, but it's creating something that the people who really like what you're doing really like what you are doing.
Barry really needs to mind his own business.
I don't know what it was, but I don't even know. One day I'm gonna come across a Barry, and he's gonna, because I just constantly on at Barry all the time. His character, Barry.
Yeah.
I don't know Barry.
I love it. I'm sure there's some good Barrys out there,
Sorry to everyone called Barry, okay? I'm gonna get sued.
So, without Barry trolling us, how long did it take you to get some traction on LinkedIn? So, from the time you made the decision that you're going to focus your time, energy, and efforts on this platform to when you started to see, I guess, the first sign of a result, or that you're doing something right, and what were those signs? How long did that process take you?
Probably took looking back now, probably took quite a while. And there's a difference between being motivated and being consistent, right? Like, motivation is one thing that we all have in the beginning of a journey, but that quickly fades. The consistency is what is really important. And there was a lot of trial and error, and people might give up after they write a post and no one likes it, but it doesn't mean people aren't watching. And the first signs for me were that people were talking to me about my content, people who have never liked a single thing that I've ever said on LinkedIn. I will see them in real life and they will say, I love that post that you did, or I saw this and that. And that's when I realized, actually, people, just because they're not clicking the button to say that they like it, doesn't mean they're not paying attention, doesn't mean that your content isn't something that they think about. and that was a sign for me to keep going with it. But it took a while. It takes a while. I think people think that you could probably just post a few things and then ta-da, like top voice. And I know there's been a lot of backlash to the whole top voice thing. But that isn't true. I think they underestimate, number one, what it actually takes to be visible, because it does take something to nail your colours to the mast, say what you stand for in public and stick to it, and also stick to it in terms of consistency, especially on the days where no one likes your stuff. That's happened to me loads.
Do you post every day?
Pretty much every day, yeah. Pretty much. I've always got things to say. As you know, I've always got stuff to say. Pretty much, but I write my stuff when I'm in this kind of fiery mood about things. I'm a bit woo, but I believe in the energy you put into something is what is going to be received in it. So if I don't feel good, I don't put pressure on myself to write stuff, because I want to give people the best experience when they come onto my content. And if I don't feel it and I'm just kind of putting stuff out just for, likes, that's not good. That's not a good experience.
Yeah, you have such a strong personal brand. You have a solid personal brand and a strong voice. And I think that's what makes your content so captivating, because we can hear you, we can hear you, we can see you. And it's one of those things with all of us, with our brands, you're either going to love it or you don't. It's like, not a problem. Everyone's not going to love you, and it's okay. I think for a lot of us women, especially, it's like, we want to be liked by everybody, including Barry, so we're letting that stop us from really showing up, being visible. So how did you get over that stage of like, oh God, no one's liking my stuff, and I don't know if this is resonating, and like finding your voice, those steps? How did you get over that to this place where you have this solid voice and solid personal brand and an audience that to go with it?
Yeah, I just don't care. I think honestly, it does help coming from the journalist background, because you get so much of it in journalism that this is like, oh, someone who's never going to be a client of mine doesn't like what I'm saying on LinkedIn. Big deal. But also, when I was the first day of nursery, the first day that I went to nursery, I was wearing a pink polka dot skirt suit, and it was great. And a girl came up to me and said, "I don't like you." And I think now, I think from that moment, I was just like, oh, right, like not everyone's going to like you. And actually, it doesn't matter. But I think I'm just very passionate about what I do. And I think that's just that I just persevere with it. And if someone wants to say something, I'll happily I think it's important to have a conversation. That's something that I learned in journalism as well. You can't just say whatever you want, and people don't know how to have a civilized conversation anymore. I think that's important, because free speech. But I think if you've come onto my content and you don't like it, you can just scroll by. You don't have to tell me that you don't like me. It's all good. So there are days where I really don't like myself, so you're not telling me anything you're saying to me, Barry, I've said a million times to myself anyway. So most people aren't thinking about you, though. That's the thing. We all worry about, what will people think if I wear this? What will people think if I say that? They're not, no offense, they're not thinking about you, because every negative thought you have about yourself, they have those about themselves too. They're only ever like reflecting to you what it is that they think about themselves, even when they're being mean. That's what it is. So really, next time that you're worried, what will someone think? 99.99% of people won't think anything. They don't care. They really don't care.
Absolutely, I can totally second that. And as we're running up, two final questions. This last one on visibility. What would you say is the greatest impact that being invisible has had on your business, on your career, on your personal life?
Well, for my business, I now have a business where I love what I do every day, and I know that it helps people. And that's why people run their own businesses, right? They start their own business because they actually ultimately want to help. They want to have time freedom, but they also have something they really want to help other people with. So when I get, not even clients, because, I work with my clients, I love my clients, I love the results they get. When I get a message from someone who I have never spoken to before, who has never liked anything that I've put out, saying to me, thank you for XYZ, that's when I think this is why it's worth it. That is why.
I love that. Now, those messages are awesome. And they tend to come at just the right time, isn't it? When you're feeling like, oh, I'm such a loser.
I'm done with LinkedIn. I'm done with everyone. Which happens a lot in my house because I'm very dramatic.
Oh, good. Yeah. My husband would tell you the same. I'll quit my business every 4 months or so.
I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. Yeah.
I love it. That is the nature of business. And speaking of the nature of business, I know you have your signature program. And as we round up, it's called Own the Room. I believe that's correct. And I just love the title because it says what it does. You're going to teach us how to own the room. So what top tips can you leave us with about how we can own the room today, the next environment that we enter as women, as mostly women listening to this? And then finally, how can we find out more about that program and what else you're doing to help us with our style?
Here's something you can do. Go into your wardrobe and get rid of everything that doesn't make you feel good, because there will be stuff in there. I promise you. People underestimate how much stuff they have in their wardrobes. Anything that makes you feel guilty, makes you feel bad, that you've never worn, that you're holding on to like that, what you're doing is actually holding away the things that it is that you say that you want. You have to get rid of that stuff. So that's one thing that you can do right now, because probably as you're listening to this, there's something in your wardrobe just like that. Go in there, get it, remove it from your life. It will change things for you because you're changing the energy. Because every time that you walk past your wardrobe, there's something in there that's telling you, you're a mess. You can't fit into me. You're a terrible person. You should feel guilty about spending money on this. That's what's happening when you hold on to that stuff. So you have to get rid of that. Would be number one thing to do right now. Like that. As you listen, go to your wardrobe right now. Get rid of it. Throw it out the window.
Shout. I might have to do that. I know a few of them. It's so hard though, Sam. It's hard to let go.
Let it go. Yeah. But women, we just hold on to so much stuff. And, we hold on to it in our heads. And then your wardrobe should be a place that makes you feel joy. And for most women, it doesn't. It makes them feel stressed or guilty or ashamed. And actually, it should be a place of joy. Just what I like to do sometimes is think about 90-year-old me. And I think, what would she say right now if she knew that I was here saying, I can't wear that because XYZ? She'd be like, this is the best you're ever going to look. Okay. Put it on and wear it. That's what she'd say to you. So think about her.
I love it.
I'll still be shouting.
90-year-old Sam will still be writing fire posts on LinkedIn.
shouting about soup or something. I don't know. But yes, that's what I would say. Get rid of that stuff. Because your wardrobe, if you don't own your wardrobe, how can you possibly own any other room? If your wardrobe is metaphorically the room here and you aren't owning it, that's just a metaphor for what else is happening in your life and your business.
Okay, got it. Message received. Loud and clear. We got that message. So how can we own the room with you, Sam? What are you up to? What are your programs? How do we get hold of you for more?
Come own the room with me. My program, the second round of Own the Room, starts next week. And you can find out more on my LinkedIn profile. It's 8 weeks and I take you through all of the foundational stuff that no one ever tells us about style, but we just feel like we're expected to know. And that's why we end up with wardrobes that don't actually serve us, because none of it fit. And then we tell ourselves, my jeans don't fit because it's a me problem. I just need to lose weight. Actually, you might just be wearing the wrong style of jeans to your body shape. That's all that is. Like, let's just change the genes, not your body. So it takes you through that, takes you through some of the mindset stuff that I do with my clients, the personal branding kind of stuff that we do. All of that is in that program. So you can come and find out more about it on my profile. Just come and have a chat. I love chatting, as you can tell.
Of course. I love that. So yes, please, Sam, this has been awesome. Honestly, I can chat to you for so much longer. You're so full of joy and full of like interesting stuff about Star. And of course, I've learned some stuff, and I will go and look at my wardrobe this week. I'm gonna promise you that. I'm gonna go and look at my wardrobe, right?
I'm gonna be messaging you. Message you, be like, well, what did you get rid of? I want a video of you throwing something out the window.
Yeah. Awesome. I will do that. But thank you so much for joining us tonight on the show. Thank you for everything that you've brought. And it's honestly been a real pleasure talking to you, and everything that you've achieved on LinkedIn, the top voice, definitely well deserved. Definitely. Your voice is one that needs to be heard on LinkedIn and beyond. So thanks for being who you are, Sam.
Thank you so much for having me, but also for what you do, because like I said, not just saying it, I literally bought your book, read the book, implemented what was in the book, and it's helped me. So thank you, really, is what I'm saying. Take your flowers.
I'll take it. Should we just spend like the next 5 minutes just giving each other compliments back and forth, right? I love it. But we do have to end today's session. So I want to take a second to thank you, everybody who tuned in tonight. Thank you for joining us in this conversation. If you do want to get hold of Sam, please do go check her out on LinkedIn, where you can find links to her website, the Own the Room program, and everything else that she does. So, and please drop your biggest takeaway in the comments. I know Iris has already done it. She's getting rid of outfits that don't bring her joy. So what are you going to do as a result of this session today? Let us know in the comments. And thank you again. And I'll see you back here next Wednesday for another awesome episode of Start Being Visible.